Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Book Fest. I'm Monica Matulich, your moderator today, and we're going to be talking about automating imagination, exploring the ethical and practical implications of artificial intelligence in the writing community. Our panelists will explore questions about whether AI is friend or foe, and how to use AI as a writer's assistant. So let me begin with a quick introduction of myself and then our panelists. I'm Monica Matulich, founder of PR Hollywood. I'm an expert in strategic communications, public relations, and marketing. I'm also a development executive who helps authors successfully pitch their books to film or TV producers. I'm the author of the forthcoming fiction book, The Accidental Arms Broker, releasing in 2024. Based on my personal experience, and it already has a film deal in the works. So with that, let me introduce our panel. We have Julie Broad. She is founder of Book Launchers and an Amazon #1 best-selling author specializing in nonfiction writing and marketing strategies for writers. Then we have Darren Campo, who is co-author of the upcoming book, Artificially Intelligent, How Do We Coexist? Good question. He's a multiple sci-fi author, TV producer, and adjunct assistant professor of entertainment, media, and technology program at NYU. Then we have Desiree Duffy. She is an advocate for storytellers, futurist, entrepreneur, and founder of Black Chateau and the Webby award-winning Books That Make You Brand and the Book Fest. And we have Cameron Sutter. He's a software developer and inventor of Plotter. He's a YA sci-fi fantasy author and literary enthusiast committed to empowering writers and championing classic literature. By the way, check out Cameron's presentation using Plotter this afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific time. His software helps writers plot their novels. So I'm certainly going to check that out. So let's begin with our questions. Let me start with you, Desiree. In your opinion, is AI a writer's foe or friend? Or does it land somewhere in between and become our new frenemy?
Yeah, I'm gonna walk that line and say it's a frenemy because I certainly understand a lot of the inhibitions, the fears, and the things that are going on in our world that make it seem like this could be a very, very bad thing. Maybe I have rose-colored glasses on. Maybe I like to think the best of things. But when it comes to technology and the way that our world and everything is naturally evolving, I think that it's remiss for authors, writers, creatives in general to ignore or push aside the benefits that artificial intelligence can be. And I often advocate for using it as an assistant. It's a tool. Think of it very much like we're using Google. Once upon a time, people said, hey, you shouldn't be using Google. You must go and use your encyclopedia and pull out these big books and volumes. We just don't really do that anymore. So I think that it can help us, but it shouldn't necessarily do the work for us. I'm not a fan of just having it write your entire novel or short story. Plotting, planning, character development, research, all of that. It's definitely, I think, our frenemy, and we should learn to work with it.
Yes, definitely. And I think that we're going to cover some of the legal side if you use AI to write an entire book, but that's something different we'll get into later. So, Cameron, let me ask you, will AI ever replace human creativity? So the WGA strike was all about putting limits on AI.
In my heart of hearts, I think that a machine is never going to replace a human. At least that's what I want to believe. I think there's always going to be something inherently human about the way we write. A lot of that I think has to do with emotions. AI doesn't feel emotions. It doesn't understand emotions. It's not really actually intelligent. That's just what we call it. It's just what we say colloquially. But I feel like being more human is where we're going to have the advantage. Understanding emotions better, understanding what it is to have your heart ripped out, to get angry, to be mad, all those emotions that AI just doesn't understand. And then to understand facial expressions and body language, those things I don't think can ever be something that AI is going to have. So I want to say it's never going to replace us. Yes, it can write a lot faster in some ways, but I think there's always going to be a market for people that want human written works. Kind of like that guy in the movie that has a gas motorcycle when everybody's gone electric. I think there's always going to be those people that want human written things.
Definitely. So, Julie, as a best-selling author, do you see AI as a writer's assistant? And if so, how do you recommend using AI as an assistant?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic for ideation. My writing team, they're using it because we help people write books, and so the writing team's using it when they come to outlining. It's fantastic for title brainstorming because creating a great title is so hard, and AI makes it so much easier. And you can even ask it to consider, SEO rich subtitles and things like that, and it can really help with that. I like to think of it as a co-pilot. It's not the pilot. And so everything I do is I am the one flying the plane, and it is giving me ideas and suggestions and reading the charts, but it's not the one actually flying the plane. But for me, actually, what I get really excited about is using it for all the marketing things. So writing, ideation. I mean, we're rewriting a lot of books right now that people wrote with AI. And like they all have Odyssey. It's like this Odyssey. It's like we're nonfiction and AI thinks it's an Odyssey. But but I think it's great for marketing, and we can kind of get into some of those pieces of what we're using it for and where it's really excelling on the marketing side versus I'm not using it to write a first draft personally.
Right. Yeah, we will get to some of the marketing topics. But Darren, I want to ask you, I think your book title says it all. How do we coexist with AI? Can you expand on that briefly?
Sure. The book we have coming out in a few months is called Artificially Intelligent, How We Coexist. And we just wanted to write a book that was about AI that didn't overwhelm people with the thought of AI as this black screen with billions of lines of code. And we did that by really looking at a lot of philosophers who understood technology over going back to Plato. And interestingly, Plato said 2,000 years ago, through dialogues with Socrates, he said, this technology of writing is going to be really bad for people because people are going to read things and they're going to think that they know things that they don't know, and they're going to be really insufferable to be around. And so you might have thought that just happened with the 24-hour news networks, but Plato pointed out this technology of writing was going to have a big impact on our minds. And so we think of AI as being this new thing that we have to deal with, but we've been dealing with coexisting with technology for a long time. And with AI, it's just the distinction between what is artificial intelligence and what is natural intelligence. And I think all of us as creatives understand that a lot of the stuff we write, we say, I didn't write that, it came from somewhere else. And that's why we can embrace technology, because it doesn't do the same thing that a human does.
Right. Well, we're definitely in a technology revolution. So, that's why I want to talk about some of the legal implications. Now, on the copyright law, there's been a couple of lawsuits filed against OpenAI and ChatGPT and about the use of authors' copyrighted works. So the big claim is that the integration of works of authorship as training the AI is itself a reproduction of the work. Julie, what's your take on this?
I mean, I'm not a lawyer and they haven't sorted it out in the courts yet either. But for us, I kind of look at it as if we create the work ourselves, right? And our authors, if they have used it to generate it to begin with, we're basically rewriting it. So it's not we're not pulling it from anything that's been generated by AI as far as that's not the final product that ends out in the world. So I'm not super worried about that piece because of what we're doing. Even on the image side, we're using AI a little bit on the images for covers and things like that. But it's almost like it's the idea and the starting point, and then our designers are really taking it and making it their own and putting their own spin on it. So I'm feeling good about how we're using it, but I think there's a lot of questions to be answered, like legally in the courts, that it'll take years for them to sort all of that out and define it.
Right, right. Well, there's another battleground on this with the U.S. Copyright Office, where that department has refused to issue copyright registrations to works that were solely generated by AI apps. And again, there, the underlying principle or policy is that the requirement that copyright can protect only material that is the product of human creativity. So Cameron, how do you caution writers' use of AI with this in mind?
Yeah, that's one of the fears I hear a lot from authors. Actually, is my work going to be copyrighted? Is there going to be any backlash from using AI to write? Amazon just released recently a new rule where you have to state in your books whether it's AI assisted or AI generated. So that's an important thing to designate. But one way to definitely make it so that you don't have any backlash or don't have any copyright issues is to do some of the things that were already suggested, which is to use it for idea generation or to use it for marketing and things like that. So if the words that are actually going into your story aren't being AI generated, then you don't have that problem at all. But you can still use it for lots of other parts of your process in the writing process.
Well, that's an interesting point, because if Amazon is asking, was your book AI assisted, what do they mean by that? I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, I used it for some idea generation and whatnot, but they have to define what that means, because we can't just answer that question, don't you think?
Yeah, and actually, I was looking at that earlier today. I wish I had the link still up to show you what it is. There's a definition that they put on their help guide.
Oh, there is.
Yes, I can help with that. So the assisted is like if you used Pro Writing Aid to edit, right? That's considered assistance. Generation is when it originates from. So if you go to ChatGPT and say, write the first draft of my chapter, then that's a generation versus running it through Pro Writing Aid and going edit or give me suggestions to rewrite this. That's considered assisted. And there's also categories when you're uploading or making changes. Was it generated with heavy editing or generated with little to no editing? And so they're asking those pieces, same with the assistance piece, and it's the same for images too. They're asking the same thing on images and translations.
So what are they doing with that, Desiree? Do you know? Because I know that, I have a couple of questions for you. One is on the marketing side, because I know that you, as I have, I've used AI to generate marketing questions or marketing copyright. And so have you found shortcomings of the AI in that kind of work product produced?
Just earlier, I have a chat on ChatGPT 4, if anybody's interested. And I've already given it all the information. That's one of the things I love about it. You can teach it. You can even teach it to write in your own tone, your own voice. I give it all of the stuff I've already put together, talking points and notes and book descriptions and everything to help me flesh something out. And it totally started talking about Zillow. It totally went rogue on me. It was the craziest thing I ever saw. So, and that's just an example. We all know that we can't really take it at face value. If it tells us something, we have to research it. We have to look it up. We have to make sure. But to circle back around to your question more succinctly, I do think that by using it with our own information, stuff that we've already put together, I call it a word salad after a while. Anybody who's done content marketing probably knows what I'm talking about. You need to write a bunch of articles. Say you need 10 articles or 10 blog posts that need to be populated out there. You're kind of saying the same thing over and over again. So it's nice to have it kind of take that and mix it up for you. And if you're giving it the information that you've already written, you're giving it your own tone, your own voice, your own style. Heck, I ask it to write in Chicago style. I give it the style manual I want it to use. If I really want to be cute, I think we've all done this before. And if you haven't, have fun with it. Go ask it to write that article that you just had it do in the voice of Homer Simpson or in the voice of Shakespeare. It will copy that. It'll do those types of things. So in that regard, I think it can be used. It's great for content writing because with authors especially, we're writing our books, we're drafting our novels, we're doing all of this creative stuff, and some of the more rote, basic stuff that really is formulaic anyway in the world of marketing or PR can be definitely assisted by AI.
Right. Well, I found that, I'll give it copy and then sometimes I don't like what it generated. And I don't know if you guys have tried this, but you can just, like with ChatGPT, you can hit rewrite it again. Do you guys use that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I found
And then even then, once you get it out, like I take it out, I'm putting it into Word and at that point, I'm editing it. It's almost like it's good for that first draft. It's a rough and it gets the ball rolling. So honestly, it saves you typing. It saves you time and just laying stuff out, but it's still, 90% human. It's just that tool again that helps you get to that point.
Right. Exactly. Well, so I wanted to ask you, Darren, I know that I've also used AI to suggest scenes or dialogue, and especially in the dialogue, it's been terrible. But I know it's going to get better with time. AI will. But what are your suggestions for writers who use AI to create scenes or dialogue?
Well, I actually haven't found it very helpful in fiction writing, largely because a lot of what Desiree was talking about is you might spend more time with your prompts and then editing than actually writing from not from scratch. But so what I found the most useful, I wrote my first novel, I think it was 95, 96, 97 over those 3 years. And I didn't have internet then. There wasn't much on the internet. So when I wrote my next books, they're science fiction books, so they need a lot of research. I think about a year of that research went away once I was able to Google things and use Wikipedia. And now I'm finding with ChatGPT, when we were writing Artificially Intelligent, so Martin Heidegger, who's a great philosopher on technology, but everything he said and wrote was in German. So previously I had to really rely on the translations and what people said about him and technology. He has this line he said in the 70s where regarding technology and humans, and he said, "Only a god can save us now," meaning we're so in deep with technology, we need Superman. But I was using ChatGPT to help really understand the context of the conversation and the interview he was having at the time. And I actually don't think that's what he meant. I think he meant we need human free will to save us, that we are the God. And so in that way, I found the research aspect and digging in deeper than what we've been able to do through our past 20 years of Google searches has been fantastic. And it's been a really, not just for fact checking and for digging deeper, but really for inspiration and another type of creativity spark.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So that's why I wanted to ask Julie, because I know you mentioned before it's great for marketing materials and stuff. And what do you find the best AI prompts are to use that create really meaningful text?
So, I mean, I'm really excited right now because they've gone multimodal, and so you can upload pictures and have it give you suggestions from the pictures now. So you can even just yesterday I was playing with it, uploading the top 10 bestsellers in a certain category and going, okay, what do you think would be a good marketing plan for, going after books that, or like doing what these books are doing to become bestsellers? And it was giving me based on the picture. And then it analyzed. I said, okay, analyze the market for these categories. And it was like, okay, here's the pricing considerations. Here's the cover things that we're noticing are making these covers stand out. So I think it's really, the prompts that I'm using today, in a month, they're going to be different because it's changing so fast. And this multimodal is now allowing you to have conversations. So it's just starting to roll out, but you can talk to it. And so now you can have a conversation and go, okay, this is what my book is. Here's some of the podcasts I've been on. What else can I do? What do you need from me to create a marketing plan? What do you need from me to, create a social media calendar for the next 5 months? Whatever it is. So I would say my answer is, it really doesn't matter the prompt I'm using today because it's going to change, but just know that you can ask it. You can say, here's what I want to do. What do you need from me in order to accomplish XYZ that I'm trying to do?
Sure. That's a great way to frame it. Definitely.
And that's something that scares, that's something that scares a lot of authors, that it's changing so fast. And are they going to be able to keep up? Am I going to have to learn the best prompts, over and over? And am I going to be able to know the best prompts? It's definitely something that's hard for authors, especially writers who, aren't very tech savvy usually.
Right. Well, there are some, webinars out there about best prompts to use. Like you say, for now, that can change. But I think that everybody should get familiar with it. So at least they have a groundwork, to start from. And, that's why I wanted to ask you, Desiree. I know that that people have been using it to create Amazon book listings. And so I wanted to see what your experience with that has been, bumping the book's rank by changing the description based on the AI suggestions.
It boils down to good old-fashioned SEO. At its core, Amazon is a search engine. It works a little bit differently than Google, and some of the SEO folks out there are like, oh, we can have all of these keywords and terms. No, with Amazon, they limit it. They have categories. They just operate a little bit differently. So it's still a game, and it's still, whether you're a prompt engineer that has mastered this, or a marketer, or an author, or a publisher, you're still trying to figure out what Amazon's algorithm is. And Amazon's putting up roadblocks, just like Google and anything else, that's going to say, and they recently just did this. Folks that are in the industry know Amazon's just kind of changed the way they did their categories and things like that. So it's this game of cat and mouse that I don't think is going to stop anytime soon. It just gets a little bit more sophisticated. And I think, just kind of pulling it back to what Cameron was saying, yeah, it is really scary for authors, because I still have authors asking me, what is SEO? They don't even understand the concepts of it. And that's okay, because they don't need to, because they've got marketing folks that can do that for them. And I think what it boils down to, just like any technology, if you want to embrace it and hold on to it, and use something like Plotter, which has a certain AI component to it, I'm sure, and there's software out there that's doing the same, that's great. But keep in mind too that there's going to be folks that are going to be prompt engineers. That's becoming a profession now. There's going to be folks that are going to know how to do SEO and category research and all of that stuff that they need to do. So I wouldn't worry too much if I was an author going, OMG, I have to learn this whole new thing, because it's just an amplification of what's already there, in my opinion.
Well, that's interesting. Prompt engineers. Have you met any yet, or know any?
Have I met any? I don't know. I guess it's a term that's been thrown around out there. I don't know if anybody's actually adopted it as their official title yet. I'm sure there are, but a prompt engineer is a thing. So I kind of think sometimes I prompt engineer. I'm sure Julie does as well. I'm sure everybody here has done it to an extent.
Right. Well, I'm just curious, because you say that Amazon keeps changing their algorithm and stuff like that. Have you asked ChatGPT to tell you how Amazon changed its algorithm? Is that a possibility to even ask and get an answer? Or do you know?
I think it is. And I know ChatGPT specifically, up until recently, was only pulling data from the internet up until 2021.
Right.
But I do know, as far as a large language model or what basically ChatGPT is, and you find ChatGPT basically running a lot of applications too. And I don't want to discount some of the other ones that are out there, such as Claude too. There's more that are out there. So you can definitely ask them to do that. But as you're asking them to do that, there's folks over at Amazon going, okay, what are folks doing right now to try to game our system? Again, it goes back to kind of the olden days of SEO. You're trying to figure out how these algorithms work, how they update. You get an inkling of what you need to do, but then as soon as you do, the rules are changed. So it's just going to be a constant game of back and forth, in my opinion.
Well, that's true. And you're right. ChatGPT, it's not connected to the internet. So it doesn't have always the most updated information. Actually, we even caught it giving out some incorrect information, which is another thing everybody has to check for, because sometimes it's stats or whatever are never 100% right. But as far as, Bing, so Bing is connected. Now, I haven't used Bing a lot. Have any of you used Bing? Or do you find it better or worse? Or
I've tried using it, and there seems to be a lag in typing in a search, so I keep going back to Google.
Well, I mean, Bing as opposed to ChatGPT to actually write something for you, because it will do that. I mean, I've tested it a little bit. Again, I wasn't very happy with the results. I kind of liked ChatGPT results better, but I don't know if anybody else has done a comparison.
No.
No.
I played around a little bit, and I was asking it to do some keyword research and stuff for me, and went back and forth. Honestly, at this point in time, it seems like from one moment to the next, there's a new LLM that's kind of sneaking up into the stage. So it's almost like right now, what I like might not be what I like a week from now. I'm a little bit, and I think most folks, and this is why we keep talking about ChatGPT, because it was really the first one out of the gate. And it really set the stage for this rush. And that's where you saw Google fell behind, didn't it? And then Bing was, really in the center of things. But as this race to get this technology out there and to compete with the other guys, I think you're just going to see stuff just going in leaps and bounds.
Right.
And I know we're talking a lot about LLMs, but AI on other fronts is doing the same thing. When you talk about art and graphics and the competition between Midjourney and suddenly DALL-E, and DALL-E is already integrated into Open AI. And if you're on Open AI, then that's where ChatGPT is. So you're already able to integrate this stuff. So as soon as something comes along, there's another one taking its place. And there's even software out there, and I might even defer, sorry, or the other way, over to Cameron, because of the fact that there's so much software out there that writers can use that has that AI integration already. So you're not necessarily prompt engineering or making it do what you want. It's already baked into its system in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I could speak to that. There's a few that a lot of writers are using. One is pseudo-write. It gives you lots of tools for character generation, idea generation, and also generating your manuscript, text for your manuscript. There's been lately some angst about using that one, so I don't know where that's headed. But another one that I've learned of recently is called Rexy. It's by Elizabeth Ann West in Future Fiction Academy. And she's got this tool called Rexy, and she was showing me the other day, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where she was generating, I think it was 1,500 words of her manuscript in, a few seconds. And she has to edit it some, but it's this really detailed, complex tool that's really cool at doing a good job of generating for what you're trying to write for. So that's one to look out for. And in Plotter also, we've got an AI tool that we're starting to tease out there that's going to be really cool for character and idea generation. So we're excited to get that one out soon. So those are some of the ones that I hear people talking about a lot.
Dibly Create is another one that's fairly new, but it's fantastic. You can ask it to create like a nonfiction book outline, and it is exceptional, far better than when you ask ChatGPT to create it. And it's a writing tool as well.
Cool, I'm going to look at that one.
Well, Julie, yeah, I wanted to ask you, so like, if, I worry if I would try and use AI to create scene situations. Even if I edit the material, it's still going through the AI. So again, that's a little putting me on the cautious side of, will I be able to copyright that material?
Oh, are you asking me if you could? I don't do anything with scenes or dialogue.
Oh, you're strictly on the marketing side?
I'm only nonfiction. So we do everything from writing to marketing, but we're only nonfiction. So and I always tell people, if you're writing your book, if you've used AI to write your book, then your book is going to be boring and not good enough, because if nonfiction book can be written by AI, it's missing the very thing that will make your book valuable to other people, which is your human experience and those insights that only you can bring to it through the lens of whatever you've gone through in order to have learned the lessons or gained the experience that you've gotten. So that's kind of how we're doing it. But yeah, sorry, I can't help with scenes.
Well, maybe
that's interesting.
Maybe. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I go ahead, Cameron.
I was just going to say that's a really interesting point. There's not going to be any AI that can say, I've learned this through this experience, and therefore I can teach you. It's never going to be like that.
Yeah, go ahead, Darren.
I had a couple of observations about the subject of things getting copied, whether by other people or unintentionally through AI. And I tell this to my students. I've been teaching a business producing course at NYU for about 12 years. And I've also spent about 20 years as a TV executive. And there were some weeks, say at Food Network, where we would have 5 or 6 producers come in with pitches. And in, say, 3 of those meetings, they would have exactly the same pitch. And it's as if they copied each other, yet none of them had spoken. And this would happen so often that it was proof of a zeitgeist. So I always caution people. I'm like, I bet if you ever see someone you think they've copied you, they probably haven't. But you yourself also have to be very careful that you haven't inadvertently copied someone else, because sure, ideas can be copied and reused, and it's usually not a big legal issue, but you can't plagiarize. And if you're building something and you inadvertently plagiarize, it doesn't matter whether it was intentional or unintentional. And so that's really where you have to be careful. And I wouldn't have any AI writing dialogue or scenes for me right now. Certainly help me if I were stuck on an idea, but I wouldn't have it writing any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've just kind of experimented to see what I'd get back, and the dialogue was horrible.
It's a certain unnatural cadence of like subject-object reaction that was sort of deadly to read. So you don't have to worry about it too much.
Sounded like a 10-year-old wrote it or something,
right?
But again, that was just to experiment and see what's going on there. Cameron, I wonder, can you give us a little bit more insight on what Plotter does? Is it just for plotting, or you mentioned something about character development also, and how much AI is in there?
So right now, none. We don't do anything with AI. But so Plotter is great for a series Bible to keep all your characters and information in there and your scenes and to visually be able to see them. But there's nothing with AI right now. What we're working on, though, is an AI tool that will, instead of having to be the prompt engineer or come up with the right ideas or the right prompts, within Plotter, you'll be able to click, come up with some ideas for scenes, for example, or come up with ideas for characters, and it'll use the context of your story, which is the really cool thing. It'll know the theme of your story, the genre of your story, the characters in your story, and it will give you an in context kind of set of list of ideas that hopefully are good for your story, and then you can pick from those and maybe dive deeper in filling out that. That's what we're planning.
So basically, the AI again would learn your writing style and what your story is all about. You're training it right there.
Well, we don't plan to use anybody's data actually for training. We don't want to even get into that realm, so that's not our plan. But it will, because of what you're already putting in the Plotter about your story, it's going to know all of it. We're able to just pull that out of your story and do the prompt for you every time, and say, tell ChatGPT basically, here's the context of the story, come up with an idea. But we don't want to train with anybody's data or anything. We're not going to be doing that.
Right. No, I meant that it just inherently, once the writer puts their own material in there, then the AI will become familiar with it and that way. That's what I was saying.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Desiree, I wonder, do you have any other suggestions for any additional types of AI? I know you talked about some of the image ones and then the ChatGPT. I mean, I know there's so many out there. Do you have any recommendations for some of the best ones?
Well, I do always suggest just go out there and play and see what's out there, because there's so many fun ones, and people are building and using, again, the base of ChatGPT to create so many different things. One of the things I think is really interesting is 11 Labs and some of the voice generating AI too. And I know that can be contentious because there's voiceover actors, just like actors who just went on strike, that are like, hey, you can't take our jobs away. And I totally agree with that. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, because there's so many authors out there who, because of the price, could never, ever afford to get an audiobook. That's a dream, right? Because of production costs, hiring that actor, all of that. How cool is it? And it might not be at the level as a professionally produced audiobook is, but they can clone their own voice. So it's in the author's voice, the best version of the author's voice, maybe tweak it a little bit. And then that cloned voice could read that person's audiobook and create an audiobook for a fraction of the cost. It reminds me a little bit of how Napster really became an equalizer in the world of music back, how many years ago was that? 20 years ago or so? But remember how that made that entry point for musicians a little bit more feasible, because they could get their music out there, and because they could share their music. File sharing, being able to share their music, they no longer were limited to playing at the local bar down the street and hoping somebody discovered them or trying to get that record deal. You can put yourself out there. So I see, those types of tools as being stuff that authors who might never have been able to afford or never have been able to play necessarily at that level get that little leg up.
Yeah, that's terrific. That's terrific. And Julie, I assume that for book launchers, on the marketing side, I assume that's your marketing arm, you would be using AI for a lot of marketing copy.
Yeah, a lot. But I kind of want to go back to what Desiree just said, because there's two things that I think are really awesome. So I tried to clone my voice with 11 Labs. Great for short pieces. It doesn't quite do, it doesn't emote at the right places for the longer thing. But what I did do was my book that just recently came out, Self-Promote and Succeed, I recorded the audiobook, and my audiobook editor used 11 Labs, my cloned voice, to do all the pickups. So I didn't have to go back in the studio to do any pickups. And you can't tell. There's no way to know which word was Julie or which was Julie bought. So that's exciting. Also, Spotify, they have just announced in their beta testing AI voice translation in the podcasters' voices. So they're doing this with, 10 or so celebrity podcasts. and they're translating it in other languages in the voice of that person. And, for me, I got excited because, Spotify has audiobook distribution too. So maybe down the road, we'll be able to translate our books into other languages in our voice. So I think there's some really, really exciting things. I geek out a little bit at this stuff, but and yeah, I know there's lots of other implications, but for my time is my most precious resource. Plus, I'm not going to ever learn how to speak German, so or some other language. And the thought that I can reach people in those markets in my voice, I think is really, really cool. And just going back to tools, Canva actually has really fantastic AI integration now. So you can tell it what you want your image to be. It's really simple. It doesn't require, because Midjourney is really hard to use. I go to ChatGPT and get it to create a prompt for me that I then copy and paste and put into Midjourney. So to just be able to tell Canva, hey, can you give me a person sitting on a beach holding a book, with this expression on their face? And Canva does a pretty good job of it. Which leads me to your marketing question. One of the things that we're doing is we're uploading a section of a book. We are generating through ChatGPT a bunch of social media posts. And then we're saying, okay, put this in a table and, describe the images that you would want for each of these social media platforms. Then we're able to upload that into Canva and create bulk images in Canva for our social media posts. So that's just one way that we're using the content. We are creating articles, we're creating, pitch ideas for speaking engagements for media, lots of things that we're doing there. But I just got so excited. I had to share those things.
No, that's good to know. That's very good to know. I'm sure our viewers will be running over to check it out for sure. So we're just about out of time. So would each of you like to just let us know what's the best platform or way to reach you? And we'll start with Julie.
Yeah, I hang out at YouTube. So come on over to booklaunchers.tv. We have new content every Tuesday and Friday. And unlike any other thing where you find book launchers, YouTube's always me commenting and replying to all the comments. So that's the best place to talk to me.
Great. Darren?
I have an old-fashioned website called darrencampo.com. You can find me there, and also our new book, Artificially Intelligent, which is published by TV Guestpert. You can go to tvguestpert.com and find out about that.
Great. Desiree?
Well, I'm right here on the Book Fest, so you can look for my speaker page and find all the links. It's Black Chateau, the Book Fest, and Books That Make You. And Darren, really quick, I'm curious because you're so integrated into the film industry. We didn't really touch about how AI is actually creating scenes in film. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, if you have a hot second.
Sure. I think along the lines of what we were just talking, Julie, and you were just talking about we're using for like ADR, additional dialogue record, where you have to bring the person in and it doesn't sound right, and all of that stuff is now being done by AI. But there are companies like Unity Software and all of the things that were way too expensive to do, like go to a castle set and or have horses running through the woods. You could do all of this now for a small amount of money. And I think that for writers and for book writers, it's like it's not just, we don't have to sit in a booth and not drink water for 4 days recording our books. We have some assistance, but maybe one day we can have an AI that just turns our book into a customized movie or experience for everyone. So I do think it's going to be, I think it's going to help writing and reading, and it's going to reach more, we're going to be reaching more people as writers.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So Cameron, what's the best way to reach you?
I am hard to find online, which is sort of on purpose, sort of a mistake, but the best way to find me is on Plotter's email list. You can see what we're doing there. And then I'm on social media. Sometimes I post about writing.
Okay, great. And then everybody can reach me through my website, prhollywood.com. You can send an email to monica@prhollywood.com. And anybody interested in taking their book to film, I'd be happy to talk to them. So again, I thank you all so much. It's been such an informative panel, and thanks for giving us all those tips on some of the best AI to use and how to use them. We really appreciate that. So thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.